we're back, and I just talked about networking and tying that to getting a job ultimately. There's lots of reasons for networking, by the way. You can go network just because you want to meet a certain person, and that's the only purpose for going. So PitchMan has come up with some secrets in his little box here. He's got 14 networking tips, and there's probably lots more. And the first one you can imagine we've already talked about, and that is purpose. You know, think about, maybe even jot down your purpose for doing this networking that you're going to be doing. If it's a small conference with 10 people, you know that I want to meet all 10 people that day. If you're going to a conference with 1,000 people, it's not going to be quite so purposeful, but you might have a purpose like I want to go to so-and-so workshop, and I want to meet so-and-so person. You know, just kind of think about what you want to do. Resumes, we've talked a little bit about resumes already, but have one, at least in your head, and have one ready to give to someone if needed. I would go ahead and bring a couple printed ones. You never know. You may have several resumes too. If you're going for a job at Alexandria and Railroad, that's one job, slightly tailored to Railroad. If you're also interested in comprehensive planning for bike and pedestrian trails, and you know that Richmond has a job, you might have one that's slightly different. And you may have one in California that's totally different with green, you know, ecological stuff and sustainability. The same resume may not be perfect for those three situations, so you might just tweak them a little bit. Of course, if you were interviewing for a specific job, then you would tweak that cover letter as well. But the nice thing about the resume for me is it is your story. It's your marketing materials that you're talking from. So in your resume, you have bullet points about what you do and how it applies to the job you're applying for. And you really want to, ideally, you take your resume and you line it up with your job description that you're going for. And that's why your resume is different. So, bottom line is you have a resume. Number 3 is an online presence. We talked a little earlier about LinkedIn and emailing with getting to know people. It's great to follow up. It's easiest, obviously, to follow up with somebody once you met them in person, to send an email and or LinkedIn. You can actually use Facebook as well. And I advise everyone to have a professional-looking Facebook page, at least not you sitting there drinking a beer. I mean, if you start interviewing, and maybe you might have read some newspaper articles recently about Facebook, some federal jobs, this one group is actually trying to require the police, in this case, police cadets or police recruits, to give them their Facebook username and password as part of their application process. Now, there's some questions about if that's legal or not, but regardless, there are companies out there and their main job is to research you, and so they will find ways to get into your Facebook. In some cases, it's not as easy as it used to be because now people are locking out that. But I still, in my Facebook page, I mostly add only friends, but I kind of take the view that if my mom saw this, would I be okay with that? And everything on there I'm okay with. The pitch we talked earlier, use PitchMan. Again, you may have different pitches. You may have a 60-second pitch. You may have a 30-second pitch. You may have a 10-second pitch, especially if you're meeting someone really quickly. And then maybe different purposes. One might be just to get someone's card. One may be just to try to get the next interview. And one might just be to find out about somebody else. You may have no interest really in what they're doing, at least initially, but you just want to have an opening that you feel comfortable with. Cards, business cards are essential. They're kind of an old school tool, but I think they're still really, until we have something electronic we can hand back and forth, they're the best thing to have. Again, I advise you write notes on the back when you meet somebody and just say, I met Adam at so-and-so place. We talked about, 2 little things you can write down. You might get their mobile phone number, maybe they give you their personal phone number, or they give you some other information that's personal, so you can jot down on the back. And same thing, you can give them your card and say, oh, by the way, I'll be in room, so-and-so later on for that workshop. If you want to meet for coffee, you can jot that down for them. So anyways, Lita had gotten free cards, and that was just obviously a great thing to do. I think I put it right here. I wrote myself a note saying it's pronounced Lida, L-E-E-D-A is how it sounds, but it's L-I-D-A. That's her nickname, which you go by with most of her friends. And then she got these from Vistaprint. I'm not pushing Vistaprint, but if they're going to give you free cards for allowing them to be on their email list, then that's not a bad price to pay. $10, you can get them at Office Max, I think. And in my case, I got 500 of them, which I got these 3 years ago. I'm still giving them out, but You can get as little as 50 or 100. That should be plenty for what you're doing. You may have multiple cards. You might have one that's about your internship that you use for business with Virginia Tech folks and town folks. You may have one for, more general that you use at a conference that talks about you and your Facebook page, not your Facebook, your LinkedIn page and your blog. You could have a couple of different cards actually. Before you go to any conference or even if it's a small event, read the program, especially for the certain sessions you want to go to, or you're not sure what the conference is about. Just glance through the program and read who's coming and what the topics will be. That way you can really target. These conferences are so big, especially the APA conference is so large, there's no way you can go to everything. You gotta really pick and again think about your purpose for going. But there may be some tracks that you're really interested in going to. There may be, your advisor may recommend you go to the so-and-so track on Wednesday at 2 o'clock because there's a guy that you really need to meet. He's from Europe, he's already in the US, so you want to go meet that person or hear their talk. And then Adam talked a little bit or asked earlier about email. For a conference, you can actually do some pre-meeting networking through the internet. Especially as a student, you can use that as an excuse to meet with people ahead of time. You can say, "Dear Dr. So-and-so, I understand you're going to be at this conference in 2 weeks. I'm going to be there too. Is it possible we could exchange some emails ahead of time about this topic? Or do you have a paper you've written? Or do you have a draft article that you're working on? Or I understand you're writing a book soon. Can I review it for you?" And there's all kinds of reasons to talk. But as a student, most people are really open to talking to students about anything. And you're just in a really advantageous place when you're a student because you can kind of get your foot in the door that you may not be able to get your foot into later once you graduate. So use that ahead of time. Again, you may have advisors or other staff and faculty who might know somebody. You may not know that person directly, but you may know someone who does. So before the conference, you might try to do some pre-conference networking that way. And of course, you could, if the conference starts on Monday and you know that person giving a workshop on Wednesday, the pre-conference meeting maybe that Monday you go out and seek them out and try to meet them first before their workshop on Wednesday. The idea of a target list is a great thing, especially if you know there's 10 people you've got to meet at this conference. I mean, you're going all the way from Virginia to California, spending $1,000 or whatever with hotel rooms and conference registration, etc. You might as well make it worth your while. If you meet 10 people, that's $100 a person. That's pretty good, So target your people. You may have a list of 50 people you really want to meet, but 10 you've got to meet. And so you literally make a list. You can do some Googling and look at APA's website in this case for who's going to be the keynote speakers. Maybe you'll even meet that keynote speaker before they talk. Just because they're keynote speaker doesn't mean they're inaccessible. And they love, again, talking to students. So I would go ahead and make a list of people you want to talk to. Lita, can I shake your hand? That's good. So some people, I won't say all women, but some women do this, some men do too, the fish handshake. I'd rather not shake your hand at all if that's the case. It's just my little pet peeve, but in general, handshake should be pretty firm. I've had one guy actually crush my hand, and that can be painful, so you don't want to be too hard. Now there are some cultures or people who, for personal preferences, you don't shake hands, and that's fine too. If you don't shake hands, just say, "Yeah, nice to meet you," and just keep your hands clasped like this, and they'll get the message, and that's fine. But there is something personal about a handshake as well. So I say do it, and I say do it fairly firmly, but not too firm. But you really don't need an excuse. If you don't handshake, you don't need an excuse. Just don't do it. That's fine. A nice smile will go a long way. Remembering names is really an important skill. I've done my best today to remember your all's. In my head, I made a little story up. Adam, I keep forgetting his name, but I might think of Adam and Eve. I mean, it's silly. Lita, I don't know what. Lita is a leader, etc. So you have a little story in your head about the person you just met. Again, you might meet 20 people in 10 minutes, and you just can't remember them all. But that's where the business card comes in. You go, "Oh yeah, Lita had that green card. You remember the color green? Oh, that's Lita. Lita wears green. I don't know." Something like that. But practice it is something I'm not great at, but I'm working on myself because you can never be too old to keep learning. And then we talked a little bit about what to wear. So dress the part. If I wanted to come across as a relatively professional person, I would wear a shirt and tie, maybe a jacket as well. If I want to be a casual guy who is going golfing because there's a golf tournament, then I wear the polo and the shorts and the appropriate golf shoes. If If you're going to a basketball game, there may be an optional basketball event or another social. Sometimes they do tours of museums, or they do walking tours where they tell you wear sturdy, comfortable shoes because you'll be in a manufacturing facility or something. Then don't wear the high heels. Don't wear the slick shoes necessarily. Go ahead and dress the part. Dress what you need to wear for that meeting. And it may be that means you have to go to your hotel and get your clothes and change, or even bring shoes with you. I actually brought my bicycling shoes so I can change. I do that on purpose, but you have to think about what you're going to wear for that for the conference. Eating and drinking. I said earlier, don't be that guy. I recommend not drinking at all alcohol, or at least knowing your limit. If you're going after hours upstairs and you've already been to the hall of professional stuff, you might have a beer or two if you're of age, and that's what you do. But it doesn't help your memory much. If you're really there, your purpose is to meet people, and you're going to that conference, that schmooze fest upstairs where they're handing out, drinks and stuff, you might just decide to get a glass of water or soda water with a lime in it. Looks like gin, or whatever. You don't have to drink, obviously. And if you do, I would just have a couple drinks and no more, and know your limits. And then eating is kind of related. I generally recommend, especially if there's a social event, if you can, I would eat ahead of time, at least have a bar or something so you're not going in starving. And that way, if you don't get the food right away, you're not thinking about food the whole time. Obviously, if you're going out to dinner with people, that's a different situation. I've also, a long time ago, I was told if you go to a buffet, eat first. Get in front of that line and get it done with. Because your job, your role, your purpose is to meet people. And you got a big fat plate of food in your hands, it's hard to shake hands literally and do that. If you're at the end of the line, which might be the polite thing to do, it's hard to get through the food and then start meeting people around the room. So I recommend, if you can, get in that line, eat early, talk while you're getting your food. It just gives you more time for later on. Sometimes they mix food, banquet kind of idea with a social thing afterwards. They might have a band or whatever. And by the time the band starts playing, you can't even talk because it's loud or something. So eating early allows you to get talking a little bit as well. And the last thing is follow-up. There's probably a lot more, but following up through LinkedIn or other methods is a great way to keep in connection with people you just met. You're sort of marketing yourselves at these meetings. I might have met you on Monday of the workshop, of the conference, and by Wednesday night or Thursday from my hotel room, I'm already emailing you just to say, great meeting you a couple of days ago. I haven't seen you the rest of the conference, but I'm glad we got to talk. And then when you get back home, flying home from California to Virginia on Monday or Tuesday, if I haven't got a response back, you might just reply back again and just say, I know you're probably like me getting caught up on emails or whatever, and I just wanted to touch base. It was really nice meeting you. I enjoyed talking to you about XYZ. By the way, I'm going to another conference in 6 months. Hope to see you there. Or I really enjoyed talking about railroad, and I'm glad I got to meet at that basketball game. Is there someone else maybe you could put me in touch with that's still active at Norfolk Southern that I could talk to? And then I guess Adam might have a story. He meets someone in a planning workshop that he specifically went to learn about planning in big cities or something, and there might be 5 people you met that are hiring, so you might follow up with all 5 of them. Even a phone call, you could do a Facebook message if it was more of a casual conversation and you got on Facebook with them. LinkedIn seems to be more appropriate most of the time. Twitter is used by some people, it's not quite as common, but they may have Twitter followers, or if you have a blog, you may have Twitter followers and they may be the same situation. They have a blog that you learn about and you find out there's something different Twitter as well, so it's another way to keep in touch. And of course, remember PitchMan and your pitch, and his little toolbox with these 14 networking tips, and I think you'll do well when you go to the conference. Any questions so far? And we all have time constraints. It's 4:03 right now. You're already late for your meeting.
Mm-hmm.
But I appreciate you all having me.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks.
much.